Captain Robert Hayes stood at the command window of the UES Defiant, his weathered hands gripping the steel railing. The vast darkness of space stretched before him, broken only by the distant flashes of alien warships moving into position. Each flash made his jaw tighten. Those ships had helped destroy Earth's fleet over the past week. Now, only the Defiant remained. "Status report," he called out, his voice steady despite the weight of command. First Officer Emily Carter looked up from her screen, her blonde hair tied back tight against her head. "Sir, we're picking up 37 enemy ships. They're forming a blockade between us and Earth. Their energy readings are off the charts." The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew what was at stake. The Defiant wasn't just any battleship. It was humanity's last fighting ship. Everything else had been destroyed or captured in the alien coalition's surprise attack. Chief Engineer David Wilson's voice crackled over the comm system. "Captain, the new engines are holding steady. Whatever happens, we can outrun them if we have to." Hayes nodded, even though Wilson couldn't see him. The Defiant was special, built in secret with technology that even their enemies didn't understand. But being able to run wasn't enough. Not anymore. "Sir," Emily's voice cut through his thoughts. "We're picking up a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." "Put it through," Hayes ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the alien coalition's leader. Supreme Commander Sixtel's gray, scaled face filled the screen. Its 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of satisfaction in its species. "Attention, last vessel of Earth." The alien's words came through the translator. "Your resistance has been impressive, but futile. We have brought something special for your homeworld. Surrender now, and we will make your species end quick and painless." The screen changed to show a massive weapon being assembled by the alien fleet. It looked like a giant silver flower, its petals made of energy-conducting metals. Hayes had never seen anything like it. "Sir," Emily whispered, her face pale as she read the sensor data. "That weapon. Its power readings are unlike anything we've ever seen. If they fire that at Earth..." Hayes straightened his uniform. He'd served in Earth's space fleet for 25 years. He'd seen good people die, watched colonies burn. But he'd never faced anything like this. "Send a message to Earth Command," he ordered. "Tell them we found the Coalition's superweapon. And tell them..." He paused, looking at his crew. Every face on the bridge showed fear, but also determination. "Tell them the Defiant is moving to engage." Emily's eyes widened. "Sir, that's dozens of ships against one, even with our new technology." "We're not running," Hayes said firmly. "Not this time." "Wilson." "Yes, Captain." The engineer's voice came back. "Remember that experimental weapons system we weren't supposed to use unless we had no choice." There was a pause. "The one that might blow us up if we try to use it." "Yes, sir, I remember." "Get it ready." Hayes turned to his crew. "We have 48 hours before that weapon is fully assembled. That's 48 hours to save Earth. I know we're outnumbered. I know they think they've won. But humanity didn't climb out of our gravity well and spread across the stars by giving up when things got hard." He walked to the center of the bridge, making eye contact with each crew member. "They think they know what humans can do. They think they can predict us. But they've never seen a ship like the Defiant. They've never faced a crew like this one. And in 48 hours, they're going to learn why you should never corner a species that invented the concept of crazy enough to work." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Emily stood up, her face set with determination. "Navigation, plot us a course through their blockade. Communications, jam their frequencies. All hands, battle stations." Alarms began to sound throughout the ship as the crew prepared for battle. The Defiant's engines hummed louder, its experimental systems warming up for the fight ahead. Hayes returned to the command window, watching the enemy fleet grow larger. They had 48 hours to save Earth. It wasn't much time. But sometimes that was all you needed to change the course of history. All hands, he announced over the ship's comm. This is the captain. In 2 days, that weapon will be ready to fire at Earth. We're not going to let that happen. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. And remember, today, we're humanity's last hope. Let's show them what that means. The Defiant's engines flared bright against the darkness of space as it began its approach. The last battle for Earth was about to begin. Lisa Foster hadn't slept in 26 hours. The weapons lab aboard the UES Defiant hummed around her as she studied the quantum core readings. As lead weapons specialist, she knew every inch of the ship's experimental systems. But what she just discovered made her hands shake. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the numbers again. The quantum weapon system wasn't just powerful, it was nearly impossible. The equations on her screen showed energy levels that shouldn't exist. She pressed the comm button. "Captain Hayes, you need to see this. Now." 5 minutes later, Hayes stood in the weapons lab with First Officer Emily Carter and Chief Engineer David Wilson. The blue glow from the quantum core lit their faces as Lisa showed them her findings. "The weapon doesn't just hit things," Lisa explained, pointing to her calculations. "It changes how space itself works. Each shot creates a tiny area where physics just breaks." Wilson whistled. "No wonder they told us not to test it. One wrong move and we could tear ourselves apart." Or, Emily said slowly, "we could tear their fleet apart instead." Hayes studied the data. "How did we even build this?" Lisa pulled up the old files. "Remember the Martinez Institute attack 3 years ago? When those coalition ships first hit Earth's outer colonies, she showed them images of the destroyed research center. Everyone thought we lost everything in that attack. But one team had already sent their research to Earth." The captain's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes." Lisa nodded. "They attacked us because they were afraid we'd build this. And we did it anyway, right under their noses. The whole time they've been hunting our fleet, we've had their worst nightmares sitting in our ship." The quantum core pulsed behind them, its light steady and strong. Wilson walked over to check its readings. "The system needs a lot of power," he said. "Each shot will drain our engines. We'll be sitting still for at least 30 seconds after we fire." 30 seconds is a long time in a battle, Emily pointed out. Hayes touched the core's protective shell. "How many shots do we have?" 3, Lisa answered. "Maybe 4 if we push it. After that, the core will burn out. And sir," she hesitated, "each shot has a 20% chance of overloading. If that happens, we all go boom," Wilson finished. The ship's main lights flickered as they took fire from a distant coalition scout ship. The enemy was testing their defenses. "Show me what this weapon can do," Hayes ordered. "Something small." Lisa nodded and went to work. She aimed the smallest possible charge at an empty area of space. The quantum weapon hummed to life. On the main screen, they watched as a tiny beam of light shot out from the Defiant. What happened next made them all step back. The beam hit empty space and reality seemed to bend. A sphere the size of a car appeared, and inside it, space itself twisted and turned. When it was over, that small part of space was just gone. "That was less than 1% power," Lisa said quietly. Emily stared at the screen. "If we hit their fleet with a full shot, we might take out half their ships at once," Wilson said. "Or we might tear a hole in space-time and kill everyone." Fun choices. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he turned to his crew. "Get this system battle ready. Emily, work with Lisa on targeting solutions. Wilson, I want every bit of power you can give us. We have one chance to get this right." As they left the weapons lab, Lisa called out, "Captain, there's something else you should know." She showed him one last set of readings. "The Coalition's superweapon. It uses similar principles to our quantum core, but they're doing it wrong. If their calculations are off even a little, their weapon could backfire." Hayes finished. "Good work, Foster. Keep on this." Find me a way to use that weakness. Back on the bridge, Hayes watched the enemy fleet growing larger on their screens. The Coalition thought they had humanity beaten. They thought they knew everything humans could do. They were wrong. Status report, he called out. Coalition fleet is moving into attack formation, Emily reported from her station. Their super weapon is 40% assembled. Time to completion, 36 hours. Hayes nodded. Helm, keep us just out of their main weapon range. Let them think we're scared. He looked at the quantum core readings on his screen. Let them think we're weak. The Defiant moved carefully through space, its hidden weapon waiting. Sometimes the best advantage was the one your enemy didn't know you had. In a few hours, the Coalition would learn that lesson the hard way. Supreme Commander Zixtal stood on the command deck of the Coalition's flagship, all four of its eyes fixed on the massive weapon being built in space. The Purifier, as they called it, was their greatest achievement. Its silver petals gleamed in the starlight as construction drones swarmed around it. Status report, Zixtal demanded, its scaled skin shifting colors with pride. The human ship still holds position at the edge of our sensor range, a junior officer reported. They appear to be waiting. Zixtal made a clicking sound of amusement. Humans, always so unpredictable. Even now, with only one ship left, they refuse to run. On board the UES Defiant, Junior Communications Officer Brian Murphy sat very still at his station. Through a lucky accident, he had found a way to listen to the Coalition's private channels. What he heard made his blood run cold. Captain, Brian called out, his voice shaking slightly. You need to hear this. Captain Hayes moved to the communications station as Brian played the intercepted transmission. The Coalition leaders were speaking freely, not knowing humans could hear them. The Purifier draws power from the human colonies we captured, one alien commander was saying. Each colony's power plants feed energy into the weapon. When it fires, it will use humanity's own power to destroy their homeworld. Hayes' fists clenched. How many colonies? Brian checked his readings. 7, sir. All are outer mining colonies. The Coalition has them hooked into some kind of energy network. First Officer Emily Carter joined them, her face grim. That's why they attacked those specific colonies first. This was their plan all along. Another transmission came through. This time, it was Zixtal speaking to its commanders. The humans are the fourth species to challenge us, the alien leader said. The others, their worlds are now empty. Their people, gone. But humans, there was frustration in its voice. Humans are different. They keep fighting. They adapt. They survive when our calculations say they should die. Brian adjusted the signal to keep listening. Remember the Battle of Saturn? One commander asked. Their ships were outnumbered 10-1. They should have retreated. Instead, they used their gas mining platforms as weapons. Who thinks like that? Primitive but unpredictable. Another alien voice agreed. That's what makes them dangerous. That's why we built the Purifier. No more chances. No more surprises. Hayes straightened up. Send these transmissions to Lisa Foster in Weapons. Tell her to compare their weapons' energy readings to our quantum core. Sir, Brian said, catching another signal. There's more. They're afraid of us. The bridge crew turned to listen as Brian played the new transmission. The humans have something on that last ship, Zixtal was saying. Our scans can't read its power core. It's using technology we don't understand. How did they build it? When? Could it be related to the Martinez Institute data we tried to destroy? Another voice asked. Impossible. We burned that facility to the ground. No one could have survived to pass on that research. Hayes allowed himself a small smile. The Coalition didn't know about the backup team, the ones who had sent their findings to Earth just hours before the attack. The ones who made the Defiant's quantum weapon possible. Mr. Murphy, Hayes said, keep monitoring their channels. I want to know everything they say. Yes, sir. And Captain, when they talk about us among themselves, they call us Deathworlders. They say Earth should have been too harsh for intelligent life. They don't understand how we survived our own planet, let alone space. Emily shook her head. They still don't get it, do they? We survived because Earth taught us to be tough, to adapt, to never give up. Hayes looked at the massive enemy fleet surrounding them. The Coalition had numbers, power, and advanced technology. But they also had something else. Fear. Fear of the species that wouldn't die. Fear of the humans who kept fighting back. "Sir," Brian called out. "Final transmission coming in. They're starting the Purifier's power-up sequence early. They want to fire as soon as possible." "How long?" Hayes asked. 24 hours, sir. They've cut their timeline in half." Hayes nodded. The Coalition was rushing because they were scared. And scared enemies made mistakes. "Send word to all departments," he ordered. "We move in 12 hours. Let's show them why they were right to fear us." The Defiant's crew returned to their duties, each person knowing that the next day would decide the fate of their species. In his private thoughts, Zixtal was right about one thing. Humans were unpredictable. And in 12 hours, they would be deadly too. Marine Commander Jack Roberts checked his assault team's equipment one last time. The Defiant's loading bay was filled with 20 of Earth's best space marines, each wearing the newest stealth armor. "Remember," he told his team, "we only get one shot at this." Captain Hayes' plan was risky. While the Defiant attacked the Coalition's front lines, Roberts and his team would slip onto one of their ships. Their target, the control center for the energy network powering the Purifier. In the medical bay, Dr. Karen Hughes worked quickly. She had discovered something important about the Coalition species. They couldn't handle rapid pressure changes. Their bodies evolved in stable environments, unlike humans who grew up on a world with changing weather. "Got it," she said, holding up a small device. "Captain, the pressure bombs are ready. Non-lethal, but they'll definitely knock them out." "Good work," Hayes replied over the comm. "Get them to Robert's team." The ship shuddered as another blast hit their shields. The Coalition was getting bolder, moving closer. "All hands," Hayes' voice came over the ship's speakers. "Battle stations. Operation Breaking Point begins in 5 minutes." On the bridge, First Officer Emily Carter watched the enemy fleet's formation. They're arranged in a standard defense pattern, just like they always do. Hayes nodded. "That's their weakness. They never change their tactics. Wilson, is our surprise ready?" In engineering, Chief Engineer David Wilson smiled at his work. He had turned the Defiant's waste heat system into a weapon. "Ready, sir. When we vent the coolant, it'll look just like a major system failure." "Perfect," Hayes said. "Let's begin. Helm, take us in. Full speed." The Defiant surged forward, heading straight for the Coalition's front line. Enemy ships turned to face them, weapons charging. "Now, Wilson," Hayes ordered. Steam burst from the Defiant's sides. The ship's lights flickered. To anyone watching, it looked like their engines were failing. "They're taking the bait," Emily reported. 3 ships breaking formation to capture us." In the loading bay, Roberts checked his tactical screen. "That's our opening. Team, ready up." The Defiant drifted toward the nearest Coalition ship. Enemy scanners would be focused on their failing engines, not looking for 20 Marines in stealth suits. "Launch teams," Hayes commanded. Roberts and his Marines pushed off from the Defiant's hull, their suits making them almost invisible against the darkness of space. They moved slowly, carefully, toward the Coalition ship. "Sir," Emily called out. 2 more enemy squadrons approaching. "They think we're helpless." Hayes allowed himself a small smile. "Dr. Hughes, are you ready?" In the medical bay, Karen stood next to a large cylinder connected to the ship's air systems. "Ready, Captain. The countermeasure is prepared." "Coalition ships are in position," Emily reported. "They're powering up tractor beams." "Perfect," Hayes said. Wilson, restore power. All weapons, target the ships on our port side. Roberts, you have a go. The Defiant's engines roared back to life. Before the Coalition ships could react, the human vessel unleashed a full barrage. At the same time, Roberts' team reached the enemy ship's hull. Cutting through, Roberts whispered into his comm. His team used plasma torches to slice through the outer hull. We're in. Inside the Coalition ship, alarms blared. But the aliens weren't prepared for human Marines. Roberts' team moved quickly through the corridors, using Dr. Hughes' pressure bombs to clear their path. The control room is ahead, Roberts reported. Beginning final approach. On the Defiance bridge, Hayes watched the battle unfold. His ship danced between enemy vessels, its movements unpredictable. The Coalition ships struggled to hit them, their formation falling into chaos. "Sir," Emily said suddenly, "the Purifier. Its power levels are rising. They're trying to fire early." "Roberts," Hayes called. "Status." "Almost there, sir. 30 seconds." The ship shook as another blast hit them. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Hull breach in Section 4, Wilson reported. "Emergency seals holding, but we can't take many more hits like that." "Roberts, we need that control center now," Hayes ordered. In the Coalition ship, Roberts' team reached their target. "Breaching now, sir." The Marines burst into the control center. The alien crew never had a chance to react. Within seconds, Roberts was at the main console. "Control center secured," he reported. "Beginning shutdown sequence." Throughout the Coalition fleet, captured human colonies suddenly went dark. The Purifier's power level dropped rapidly. "It worked," Emily exclaimed. "The weapon's power network is failing." Hayes nodded grimly. "Good. Now for Phase 2. He opened a channel to weapons control. "Lisa, power up the quantum core. It's time to show them what humanity can really do." Chief Engineer David Wilson crawled through the smoking maintenance tunnel, his face covered in grease and sweat. The last hit had damaged the Defiant's main power core. Without it, they couldn't fire the quantum weapon. "Talk to me, Wilson." Captain Hayes' voice crackled through his comm. "It's bad, sir," Wilson replied, examining the damaged systems. "The power relays are fried. Normal repairs would take hours." "We don't have hours," Hayes said. "The Coalition is regrouping." Wilson looked at the broken machinery, then at the tools in his hands. 20 years of fixing ships had taught him one thing. There was always a way. "Sir," he said, "I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." "Those are my favorite kinds of ideas. Chief, do it." Up on the bridge, Navigation Officer Stephen Clark watched the enemy ships closing in. The Coalition vessels moved in perfect, predictable patterns. That's when he noticed something. "First Officer Carter," he called out, "look at their flight paths. They're avoiding that asteroid field like it's poisonous." Emily moved to his station. The asteroid field stretched between them and the Purifier. The Coalition ships stayed far away from it. "Their ships are too rigid," Stephen explained. "They can't handle quick turns or unpredictable movements. But I used to race solar ships. That field, it's just like the courses I flew." Emily's eyes widened. "Captain, I think we found our path to the Purifier." "Through the asteroid field?" Hayes asked. "The odds of successfully navigating that are better than facing their entire fleet head-on." Stephen finished. "I can do it, sir." Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Coalition fleet was forming a wall between them and the Purifier, but they left the asteroid field unguarded. "Because they think it's impossible," Hayes muttered. "Wilson, how's that repair coming?" In the maintenance tunnel, Wilson had rigged something that would make any engineering instructor scream. He connected the backup life support power directly to the quantum core, bypassing the damaged relays. "It's not pretty," he reported, "but it'll give us one shot with the quantum weapon. Maybe two if we're lucky." "What about life support?" Emily asked. "We'll have 30 minutes of air. After that, Wilson left the rest unsaid. Hayes stood from his chair. Officer Clark, plot us a course through that asteroid field. Wilson, get back to engineering. Everyone else, secure for extreme maneuvers. The Defiant turned toward the asteroid field. On coalition ships, commanders watched in disbelief. They wouldn't dare, Supreme Commander Zixtal said, watching from its flagship. It's suicide. But the human ship didn't stop. Stephen's hands flew over the controls, guiding the Defiant between massive rocks with barely meters to spare. Multiple impacts, Wilson reported. Hull holding. Barely. The ship shuddered as they scraped past another asteroid. Stephen didn't flinch. His eyes were locked on his displays, his movements precise. Coalition ships are trying to follow us, Emily reported. They can't do it. Their ships are breaking formation. Through the bridge window, they could see coalition ships crashing into asteroids or pulling back. Their rigid programming and strict protocols couldn't handle the chaos of the field. 15 minutes of air left, Wilson called out. Almost through, Stephen said through gritted teeth. The Defiant spun between two colliding asteroids, missing both by inches. Then suddenly, they were clear. The asteroid field lay behind them. And ahead. The Purifier, Hayes said. And no ships between us and it. The massive weapon hung in space, its construction only partially complete after Robert's team cut its power. Coalition ships were still struggling with the asteroid field, trying to reach them. Sir, Lisa Foster called from weapons. Quantum cord is charged, but with Wilson's rigging, we only get one shot. 10 minutes of air remaining, Wilson added. Hayes looked at his crew. Each face showed the same determination he felt. This was what humans did best, the impossible. Target the Purifier, he ordered. Emily, send a message to all coalition ships. Tell them. Sir, Emily interrupted, a small smile on her face. I think I have a better idea. She quickly explained her plan. Hayes listened, then laughed. Do it. Let's show them how humans really fight. Emily opened all channels, broadcasting to every coalition ship in range. It was time to teach them why you should never corner a species that evolved on a death world. And why humans always had one more surprise ready. Lisa Foster's hands hovered over the quantum weapon controls. Behind her, the core hummed with dangerous energy. The readings on her screen made her heart race. The weapon was drawing more power than ever before. 7 minutes of air remaining, Wilson reported from engineering. His makeshift power system groaned under the strain. On all channels, Emily Carter's message played on repeat. To all coalition ships, you called us primitive. You called us predictable. But you forgot something important. Humans don't just survive. We change the rules. Supreme Commander Zixtal watched from its flagship, still trapped behind the asteroid field. What game are they playing? It demanded. Lisa ran the final calculations. Captain, she called out, her voice tense. I found something about the quantum weapon. Something we missed. Hayes moved to her station. The numbers on her screen told a frightening story. The weapon doesn't just break physics in a small area, Lisa explained. It creates a chain reaction. If we hit the Purifier, the reaction could spread through their entire energy network. The same network that connects to our captured colonies, Emily realized. Hayes' face darkened. What are the odds? Lisa took a deep breath. 50% chance we destroy their fleet and save our colonies. 50% chance we trigger a reaction that tears everything apart, including us and the colonies. 5 minutes of air, Wilson's voice reminded them. Through the bridge window, they could see coalition ships finally breaking through the asteroid field. Soon, they would be surrounded. Options, Hayes asked his crew. We could try to retreat, Stephen suggested from navigation. Find another way. No time, Emily said. Look. She pointed to the Purifier. The weapon's damaged sections were slowly repairing themselves. They're rerouting power from their ships. They'll be able to fire soon. Hayes stood silent for a moment. The fate of Earth, of humanity itself, rested on this choice. "Lisa," he said finally, "what happens if we fire at partial power?" She checked her calculations. The reaction would be smaller, more controlled. But she paused. It wouldn't be enough to stop them. 4 minutes of air, Wilson reported. Coalition ships were getting closer. Their weapons charged, ready to fire. "Sir," Emily said softly, "whatever we do it together." Hayes looked at his crew. Each face showed the same mix of fear and determination. They all knew the stakes. "Lisa," he ordered, "full power to the quantum weapon. Target the Purifier's main power core." "Targeting," Lisa replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "Sir, firing this weapon, we'll be at ground zero of the quantum reaction." 3 minutes of air. Hayes opened the ship's comm. "All hands. This is the captain. In 3 minutes, we either save Earth or die trying. Whatever happens next, I want you to know." His voice grew strong with pride. "You are the finest crew anyone could ask for." "Coalition ships entering weapons range," Stephen reported. 2 minutes of air. Lisa's hands steadied on the controls. The quantum core's hum grew louder, making the deck plates vibrate. "Sir," Emily called out. "Message from Supreme Commander Zixtal." "Put it through." The alien commander's face appeared on screen. "You cannot win this, humans. Your species ends today. But surrender now, and we will make it quick." Hayes smiled. "You know what your biggest mistake was, Commander. You thought you could predict us. You thought we would follow your rules." He nodded to Lisa. "Show them how wrong they were." 1 minute of air. The quantum core's energy reached critical levels. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. "All power to weapons," Hayes ordered. "Emily, send our final message." Emily opened all channels one last time. Her voice was clear and strong. "To all coalition ships, you wanted to see what humans are capable of. Watch carefully." Lisa's finger hovered over the firing control. Target locked. Quantum reaction at maximum. "Sir, whatever happens next rewrites the laws of physics." 30 seconds of air. Hayes took one last look at Earth, visible as a small blue dot in the distance. Then he gave the order that would change everything. "Fire." The quantum weapon activated. Lisa watched her displays as reality itself prepared to tear apart. In the next few seconds, they would either save humanity or join the list of extinct species. But whatever happened next, they would face it the human way, fighting until the very end. Time seemed to stop as the quantum weapon fired. A beam of pure white light shot from the Defiant, streaking across space toward the Purifier. In that moment, everyone, human and alien alike, held their breath. The beam hit the Purifier's core. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then reality itself screamed. Space twisted around the impact point. The Purifier's silvery petals began to warp and bend in impossible ways. Colors that shouldn't exist flashed through space. Quantum reaction spreading. Lisa shouted over the alarms. "It's following their energy network." Through the bridge windows, they watched as the reaction raced along invisible lines connecting coalition ships. Each vessel the reaction touched began to twist and distort. 15 seconds of air remaining, Wilson reported, his voice calm despite everything. Supreme Commander Zixtal's desperate voice came through their comms. "What have you done? This isn't possible. Your species couldn't have." The transmission cut off as the quantum reaction reached its flagship. The massive vessel bent like paper in a wind that shouldn't exist in space. "Sir," Emily called out, "the reaction. It's reaching our colonies." Everyone watched in horror as the energy wave approached the captured human worlds. If Lisa's calculations were wrong, those colonies would be torn apart. 10 seconds of air. The reaction hit the first colony, but instead of destroying it, something amazing happened. The Coalition's energy-stealing machines overloaded and exploded. One by one, Lights began coming back on in the human settlements. The colonies, Lisa exclaimed. Their power plants. They're intact. The reaction is only affecting coalition technology. 5 seconds of air. Hayes watched as the quantum reaction continued to spread. Across space, coalition ships twisted and broke apart. The mighty purifier collapsed in on itself, becoming something impossible to look at before vanishing completely. 3, 2, 1. Wilson counted down. Just as the last of their air was about to run out, the reaction stopped. Space returned to normal. Where there had been hundreds of coalition ships, now there was only floating debris. Emergency power restored. Wilson called out suddenly. Life support back online. The bridge crew took their first deep breaths of fresh air. Through the windows, they could see their colonies shining bright and free in the distance. Status report, Hayes ordered, his voice rough. All coalition ships in range have been destroyed or disabled, Emily reported. The purifier is gone, just gone. And she paused, checking her readings. Sir, the colonies are sending messages. They're all okay. Not a single human casualty. Lisa stared at her readings in amazement. The quantum reaction, it only affected their technology. Somehow it knew the difference between human and coalition tech. That's not possible. That's humans for you, Hayes said with a small smile. We specialize in impossible. New signals began coming in. Emily's eyes widened as she read them. Sir, we're getting messages from other coalition ships. The ones outside the reaction zone. They're surrendering. All of them. More messages followed. Coalition worlds, hearing of their fleet's destruction, began offering peace terms. The species they had conquered were declaring independence. They're afraid of us now, Emily said softly. No, Hayes corrected her. They respect us now. There's a difference. Stephen brought the Defiant around, pointing them toward Earth. The blue planet shone in the distance, safe and sound. Sir, Emily said, reading a new message. Earth Command is asking what happened. What should I tell them? Hayes looked at his crew. Lisa at her weapons station, Wilson's grease-stained face on the screen, Stephen at navigation, Emily by his side. Each of them had done the impossible today. Tell them, he said, that humanity just rewrote the rules of the galaxy. Tell them we're bringing our colonies home. And tell them, he smiled, tell them that the Coalition just learned why you should never corner a species that turned a death world into a cradle of life. The Defiant moved slowly toward Earth, its quantum core quiet now. Behind them, the stars shone on debris that had once been the galaxy's most powerful fleet. Coalition ships that survived sent messages of peace, having learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans weren't just survivors. They weren't just adaptable. They were something the Coalition had never encountered before, a species that refused to accept impossible as an answer. And now the galaxy would never be the same.